Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Mind Matters, Navigating Head Injuries and Concussions. I'm your host, Kylie Como. I'm a legal nurse consultant here at Shane Smith Law, and today I'm here with Tiffani Netter, a survivor of traumatic brain injury. Tiffani, it's a pleasure to be with you.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Excellent. So of course, as our audience knows, our focus here is to discuss all things brain injury and other related topics. So Tiffani, let's kind of start with when and how you were thrust into living life with a brain injury.
My husband and I were actually involved in a car accident where a person ran a red light and hit the car, pretty much caving in the passenger side, and I ended up hitting the back of my head on the seatbelt adjuster, which ended up causing a lot of damage to the back of my head.
What do you remember about the accident?
I remember waking up and just being really angry. That's the first thing. It's just being super angry. And then I didn't recognize my husband as he was trying to keep me awake, but I remember the logo on my husband's shirt, which was really ridiculous, is just being like, oh, my husband works there, so this must be a safe person, as he's trying to keep me conscious, because I kept passing out.
Okay. That's what I was going to ask, if you lost consciousness, so not quite sure, huh? Maybe, maybe not.
No, I did. I lost consciousness several times.
Did you go to the emergency department? Did the ambulance come? How long did it take to get there? Tell us about that part.
Thankfully, the person who hit us ended up calling the ambulance. He felt really, really bad. And so yes, I did have to go to the ER via ambulance, which thankfully, it was just me that had to go to the ambulance. My husband was okay.
Good.
Thankfully, the person who hit us was okay. I was the only one that sustained major injuries, which thankfully was just my head. I guess most people would not be so thankful. But my husband only sustained minor aches, pains, and bruises. The person who hit us, he was okay because he had a deer bar on the front of his car, which is really kind of what caused a lot of the damage to the front of the car. So
you went to the ER, they took you by ambulance, I imagine, huh? Because you sound like you were in pretty bad shape.
Thankfully, nothing was broken. So because nothing was broken after they ran all of the tests on me, they pretty much just sent me home. So we really didn't find out about a lot of the damage done to my head until later on, which caused a lot of problems. I had aches and pains in my shoulder and my arm. So my arm was in a sling, but that was mostly because I had a separation in my shoulder, but that was really it.
Tiffani, you mentioned you went to the ER. They didn't see a whole lot wrong with you. You hit your head. You probably didn't present as somebody who had these big, open, obvious injuries, right? Like a shattered leg or a big gash in your head, right?
Yeah.
So they ran some tests. Did they do any imaging, any x-rays, anything like that? Any blood tests?
I think I had an MRI done just to see if I had any internal bleeding. But that was really the extent of it.
Yeah. Not surprising. In the ER, being a nurse myself, the ER's job is to, stop immediate issues, to find out if there are any life-threatening issues. And a lot of times if your vital signs are good, you're awake and alert, those sorts of things, you tend to get sent home. So how long did it take for you then? You were discharged home. How long did it take for you to realize there's something wrong?
Almost immediately, because I couldn't talk. That was the hardest part, is that I couldn't talk. I was really shaky. I had nausea. I was lightheaded. I had difficulty walking. My equilibrium was really off.
Okay.
I had really bad headaches. We had to darken the entire house for days.
Wow.
It was bad. It was really bad. I also lost a good portion of my memory. I couldn't remember really anything from before the accident, and I couldn't feel the right side of my body. I still have limited feeling on the right side of my body, and we're 2 years after. I have to be careful because if I get cut on the right side of my body, I won't notice it. My kids will let me know, hey mom, you've got an injury to the right side of your body and got to take care of it. I still don't have a whole lot of memory from before the accident. Bits and pieces will come back to me, but that's really it.
Wow, that sounds really significant. So, and that happened pretty much soon after you got home, it sounds like. Is that right?
It was almost immediate after the accident.
Okay. So what did you do at that point? Did you go back to the ER? Did you go to a doctor the next day? How did that work? How did you get that treatment?
We saw a few different, we saw chiro, we saw the ortho, we saw a few different neurologists. where we did the DTI, we got the VNGs. We had a few different testing, actually.
Yeah, there are a lot of tests available these days, whereas they weren't available necessarily, a decade or two ago. They've come a long, long way with diagnosing traumatic brain injury, especially that, and I hate to use the term mild, because there's nothing mild about a brain injury, but those brain injuries that don't have the open wound, the obvious like intracranial hemorrhage, that sort of thing, but you've got this impact to the head where it's caused a jostling in the brain and causes issues like you had. So lots of diagnostic tools like you just mentioned, that DTI and the VNG. I think we'll get into that in a little bit too. So you mentioned the VNG, that video nystagmography is the long way of saying that, VNG. It's an eye test, right? They have you track visual objects in your field of vision, right? Mm-hmm. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Yeah, and that tells a lot about your equilibrium. You mentioned balance, you mentioned stability issues. That will highlight a lot of those areas. The brain controls everything, obviously. So, yeah, they do these eye movement tests with you and can tell, things like when you change position of your head or when you look in certain areas, they can then determine if you're having issues with balance, equilibrium, that sort of thing.
I have damage to my corneas, as well as like 75% of my white matter.
Mm-hmm.
I have damage in both hemispheres of my brain.
Mm-hmm.
I have to have a service dog now to make sure that if my equilibrium is off, she can catch me.
There you go.
Because I do just randomly fall.
Yeah.
Because I will get dizzy. Feels like the earth is shifting underneath me.
Mm-hmm.
Or like it'll just drop out from underneath me. So I have my service dog, Urza, who will catch me. Like I can't have a smaller service dog.
Mm-hmm.
I have to have a bigger service dog.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And she'll catch me, and she'll also warn me before it happens. So she'll make me sit down or like lean up against something. Okay. So that I can catch myself, because I almost feel like it's not like pins and needles, but it's almost like a numbness in the back of my head. So she'll warn me to that before it happens.
She cues on all that.
Yeah, she cues on a lot of things. There's several things that she will cue me on, because I also have seizures now, like an epilepsy,
mm-hmm.
and she will also help me with that. So learning the difference between the cues on if my equilibrium's going out or if I'm going to have a seizure, she helps me on that one. If I'm going to pass out
mm-hmm.
or if I'm going down, she knows to go get help. She's been trained to either go get somebody in a uniform or find specific family members. We work on that all the time of go find dad or go find auntie. There have been times where I've passed out in the store like Walmart, or I've had a seizure and she has to go and get assistance. There have also been times where I've passed out bad enough where she has to bring me to. So she's been trained to like kind of throw herself into my chest to make sure that I keep breathing, because I do have breathing issues now, where she's had to create a bubble, but she stops as soon as like EMTs and people in uniforms come, which has caused issues for other people.
Yeah.
Because they quote her as vicious, but because they see an issue and some want to help and some see a cute dog.
Right.
Just is what it is.
Yeah.
But other people have pointed out that that's what she's trained to do.
She's just being protective, doing the job that she was trained to do, like you said.
Yeah, she's very not protective. I mean, she can be. She's a dog.
Sure.
But she's a service dog. That's what she's trained to do. That's her service. Is she's got all of the
patches, the
patches,
warning signs, if you will.
Yeah, all of the warning signs on her, so that everybody is fully aware is I'm disabled, and to not pet her, she's got a service to do.
Yeah, don't distract her.
Yeah,
absolutely. That's I hate to call her a tool, but what a great tool to have. You know, she's a sweetheart too. Meeting her before the show, she's a sweet girl.
Yeah, she's a very sweet girl, but she's also considered medical equipment.
Yeah. So the VNG, great. You mentioned another one that I love, a diagnostic tool that we see more and more these days, the DTI, the diffusion tensor imaging.
Yeah.
What do you remember about that process?
I remember that it's a more detailed imaging of the head.
Mm-hmm.
I remember it's almost like an MRI where they stick you in the tube, and you've got all of this stuff on your head, and it's a way to see a more in-depth imaging of your brain, as they can see more where the damage is done.
Mm-hmm.
They see more if it's gray matter or white matter, And for me, they were able to tell that it was white matter, that it's not going to heal.
Yeah.
They were able to tell that my brainstem is damaged. They were able to tell it's never going to get better for me. It's not going to improve for me.
Yeah. That's right on. That's a great explanation. You mentioned that you had an MRI, I think, earlier in the hospital when initially. MRIs are great tools, but they're limited in some ways. They especially with the brain, a lot of times people with head injuries, especially those, again, mild traumatic brain injuries, don't necessarily show any damage. They come out unremarkable or clear. But that DTI, that diffusion tensor image, you're right, it is a type of MRI, but it measures, it's really, I'll get a little geeky here, but it measures the flow of water along the different fine motor neuron axonal tracts in the brain. And so when you've had a brain injury, your head, jostled really fast. And so you have that micros called shearing of those fibers. And so that water can't travel across those fibers as much as it was, and therefore the signals don't travel along those tracks like they were. So the DTI shows all that, and the imaging from that, which I hope we can include on this, is just fascinating, and it definitely highlights those areas that you had those injuries.
Yeah, for me, even with relearning how to talk and do a lot of things, and even relearning the fine motor skills, because you do have to relearn a lot of those things. Looking into the DTIs and looking into all of that information for me was really interesting. Learning the difference between just an MRI and the DTIs. Is anybody that I find out that has the traumatic brain injuries and the extent of it, I automatically recommend getting a DTI.
Yeah.
Because they'll explain to me what their symptoms are and how everybody's kind of just ignoring it and just bypassing it, and it's not a big deal. And I'm like, no, you need to get a DTI. That'll tell you how bad it is.
Yeah, it definitely is a very detailed tool. Unfortunately, they're not as available to the general public, just because there's not as many providers that are adept and able to use that tool. The machines themselves are not as readily available. Where did you have to go to get that?
For me, I had to go to National Brain Injury Institute that really pushed for it.
Yeah.
They were also the ones that helped me find out that I was having the seizures. They helped me get on the meds that were helping. I mean, they weren't quite to the extent that I needed them, but they were helping.
That's excellent. You've got all these diagnostic tools done. They've done all the things. What did they diagnose you with? What did they tell you?
For me, is I have a standard score of 1% for attention, executive function, processing speed and reaction time, delayed memory, and motor coordination. Essentially, my brain is damaged more than 99% of other people.
Wow. Having been through all that, and you're still on recovery path. You said 2 years, so have the rest of your life in front of you to kind of deal with this. I think the good thing, and I think people in our audience that may be dealing with this or know someone who's, I think a good piece of news is those brain pathways. You can grow new pathways, and that's some of what you're learning, right? You're redeveloping those pathways. So what would you recommend to somebody who's been in like a car accident like you have, who maybe hit their head and developed a brain injury like you did?
I would definitely recommend staying on top of the neurocognitive rehab that's recommended by your doctor, because I do that every day.
Okay.
Even 2 years later. Recommend advocating for yourself, because you're going to get doctors who kind of just ignore you. I've had doctors do that. I've had neuro doctors that have not cared. Much like my second neuro, who was like, what makes you think it's seizures? Well, because I've had doctors tell me before it's seizures, and had to fight with them before, because they're just like, no, it's not seizures. And I'm like, no, it's seizures.
Yeah.
Then I've had people are like, why do you need a service dog? You look perfectly fine. I'm like, well, because I need a service dog. And to not let the opinion of others get to you, is you're going to want to be like normal, and you just have to be okay with your new normal. Is you can't give up the fight just to be normal.
Yeah, you said a lot of meaningful things there. I think a few of the things I heard, you talk about advocating for yourself. When I hear your story and I think about what that might look like, I imagine you have and you mentioned some people, you have a pretty robust support system around you that helped you do that.
Having a phenomenal support system has helped me be where I am, because if it wasn't for my support system, I probably wouldn't be able to talk as well as I am.
Mm-hmm.
I probably wouldn't be able to write as well as my 7-year-old, who teaches me math every day. I love her to death.
That's awesome.
I know that without my husband, my sister-in-law, my father-in-law, and even my dad still, I would not be okay.
Mm-hmm.
I would not be okay.
Yeah, that's well said. I think, and I know there are people out there listening that may not have that kind of structure around them. I know there are lots of advocacy groups. I think, therapists, some of the neurologists, I'm sure have very deep connections to support systems that they may be able to tap into. So I think the important takeaway from that is you really have to nurture that support system in some way, shape, or form.
You do.
Yeah.
Is you got to find someone that can be your rock.
Yeah.
Because you're going to end up in a emotional hole.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're not going to understand the emotions that you're feeling. I remember being super depressed because I couldn't understand the feelings that I was feeling. Like I said, when I came to, I was super angry, and I didn't know why I was super angry, because I had never been an angry person before the accident. It's just suddenly I was just so angry, and I wanted to fight, and I was just so angry, and then I was out. But since then, I was just angry. I was just an angry person. But having my support system and having those people to back me, is I was able to remind myself it was okay to not be okay. Mm-hmm. Every day is I remind myself it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to have bad days. It's okay to struggle to talk. It's okay to struggle to walk. It's okay to have those days, because I know that I have somebody that's going to pick me up when I fall. I have somebody that's going to be able to translate the days that I can't talk. I have those people that are going to pick me up when I'm not okay.
Well, everybody, that's going to do it for another episode of Mind Matters, Navigating Head Injuries and Concussions. Again, I'd like to extend our gratitude to Tiffani Netter for joining us today and sharing her expansive knowledge and her expertise with us. I hope that our audience enjoyed being a part of this informative and insightful discussion as much as I have, and is walking away with a deeper understanding and really an appreciation of what recovering from, living with, and thriving after a brain injury can look like. For everybody, please don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel to keep up with our latest and greatest content, and leave us a comment to let us know what you thought of today's discussion. And as always, remember, if you're in pain, call Shane at 980-999-9999. We'll see you next time.
In pain, so I call Shane. 980-999-9999. In pain, call Shane.